Hello, YouTube. Just here to say this took a long time to make, and I kind of sidetracked myself on that. Anyway, feathers. Make a lot of them. It's about 16 per wing, give or take. I just traced this website, used this foam, and traced it on there. And then I colored them. With labels, of course. Don't do anything on this clip because it's all wrong. It's all wrong. I used wire instead of string, and the feathers weren't overlapping correctly. But I didn't want to throw away all of the footage, so here you go. Incorrect stuff. And then I restarted all the way over. The armature is pretty simple, very straightforward. I used a pattern that I made myself. I cut it out with foam, and I glued it together with hot glue. The next step is to put the armature together by gluing the wire in between the pieces of foam. You can see I added pins here, but it was mostly just to help me keep everything together while I glued the wire down. Before we start any gluing, we mold the wire into the shape of the foam pieces. Now we can start the gluing. I should have done this after, but the first feather gets attached to the armature. This is important because it'll help the other feathers stay in the place they're supposed to be when the wings are at their most extended point. It's important that you don't glue the whole piece of foam, because part of it needs to be open so you can sandwich the feathers in. Attaching the feathers like this is how we get them to move. I'm gonna show you how I made the feather attachments. I took some wire and curled the end. Then I held it up to the feather and the wing so I could cut it to the right length. I'd then stick it into the gun briefly to get glue on it, and finally glue it to the feather. The feathers are then sandwiched in between the foam by stabbing a piece of wire through, making sure that it goes through the loop. The feathers closest to the head will be attached to the outside of the wing. Okay, so the next few pieces are pictures. Here's what I used to tie the feathers. This is the pattern I used to glue together the wings, of course. So it's like a little flesh. That's the front and the back. That's the fabric that I used. And this is where I start making the cape. At first I wanted to make 2 capes, top and bottom, which is why you'll see me write bot on this pattern. But I ended up scrapping the idea because it looked too bulky. Here you see me going back and forth, trying to get the pattern that I want. I used the sheer fabric to trace and get the pattern onto the fabric that I really wanted. Here's me checking out the final product. I glued some bits of fabric onto the armature and colored it a bit to try to cover up the white spots. I also glued more scrap fabric to the cape because more pieces of the connector wires were showing. Thank you for watching. I hope you make your own cool cosplays too.